Because they're ignoring you, it's because they have 4 other things going on at a particular point in time. So that I just think is very important, and I think that one of the things that we can't let that go, and make sure that we all communicate and work together on this, now and in the future on this.
Well, we appreciate your comments,
Yeah.
Chief.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one thing to that? I just wanted to say that because this is a regional center, you don't lose local control of any incidents. Obviously, there is 2 sergeants that work the road and a lieutenant inside at the police department, some captains and lieutenants that work on the fire department. So when an incident happens, they technically take control of the incident and add additional resources if needed, and move things around and resources, and when there's stacked calls or whatever, they allocate the resources to those. So just because there is regionalization doesn't mean there's a loss of local control. It's still in place. Thank you.
I appreciate that. This will tip my hand a little bit on how I'm viewing this, but when I first got on this board now almost 9 years ago, I was on a committee with other communities in this area, and the whole context of that committee was about regionalization. And I'll give my compliments to those in the public safety environment, all of you in the room tonight, because you, as a profession, have led the way often. Chief Hazel mentioned the context of mutual aid, which is a form of regionalization in our area. I know the police department belongs to NEMLAC, which is a similar organization that brings resources and collaborates in ways that are necessary. We belong to the Shawshene Regional Vocational School District, another form of regionalization. And I know we've tried to encourage with other communities. I know we're exploring in other areas on the administrative side and service provision side the context of shared services. So conceptually, to me, that makes a lot of sense. I spent the last week in Minnesota, don't you know? And as I think and listen to the context of what was being presented tonight, everything in the Midwest is on a larger scale. It's built around county as opposed to municipality. So we don't have the local control in St. Paul, Minnesota that you might have here in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. It is much more regionalized. And yet, as I talk to family members and people that I've met out there, the recognition is that the quality of service is still fairly strong and well maintained. So clearly from where I sit, I don't think we as a town or community or a group of 3 should be afraid of the term regionalization. If anything, we should be striving towards that, provided it maintains, God bless you, maintains the level of service and the safety net, particularly in this public safety realm that we're discussing. So from my vantage point, this is an opportunity from the Commonwealth to achieve perhaps a different structure that improves service, from what I'm hearing. Certainly there's a financial benefit, but I want to think about the human element, not only the dispatchers in the room and their colleagues who are down the street right now as we speak, but also the residents of our community and the needs that they have. And I know it's articulated very well about concerns about response times, etc. But in the end, if we have assurance and we have local control and we have, I believe at the end of the day, we need to defer to those leadership positions here in town that we trust and we've come to know well, to kind of give us the guidance on where to go with that. I'm just giving my opinion. My colleagues obviously may have a very different view of it, and I can appreciate and respect that, as I always would. So I don't mean to get ahead of any votes or anything, but I wanted to offer my context of how I'm thinking about it. And I'll open it up to any other commentary that my colleagues want to make. Anybody?
Okay. Just to piggyback on what you said, I think one of the things we can always be proud of in our community is our public safety, both fire, police, and our dispatchers. We, as was mentioned, we have award-winning dispatchers that have done great work for our community. I have no doubt that regardless of any guarantee for employment in the new center, that our dispatchers, as excellent as they are, will have no trouble securing those jobs. And around all of those benefits that the chairman just outlined, I don't see any reason that we would consider anything but an affirmative and to support this project.
All right, so, Mr. Montori, if I understand the lay of the land correctly, you would need us to affirmatively vote to accept the provisions of the statute, is that correct? And that would allow this triumvirate of communities to move forward. Have the other towns taken any action yet?
No, we're actually going to Chelmsford on Monday night and Drake on September 8th.
And is any action that we take tonight contingent on the other two communities acting in the affirmative?
No.
So if it, for example, fell to two communities and we vote tonight to move forward, would the program or project continue forward?
Well, I would think at that point we'd probably want to run numbers.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question.
So you're-
Assuming the three.
right,
And
you're
if
voting
the
on the
conditions
three,
changed,
then we
you
come
would
back.
bring that back to us.
Correct.
Okay. I want to make sure that's clear.
This,
Yeah.
and then if it falls through.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Okay. All right, Mr. Gay, any
Yes,
questions?
Mr. Chairman, if we vote tonight for this, and we, for some reason, want to change our view, at some point, are we locked into our position from this vote tonight? Or how?
And that's what we're trying to do tonight, is lock it in seriously.
Okay.
And if something drastic happens, then we're not going to be back.
Yeah.
All of us will be back talking about it.
In other words, is there, for some reason, something, like you said, drastically changed, there's an opportunity for us to reassess everything?
If something dramatically changed, then we need to see.
So I would characterize that as a substantive change in condition, you bring that back to us.
We will, have to really try to think of the right way. We need to move forward. I think, and I'm pushing this the most with everybody. Talk about it. Mentioned tonight, radio systems and upgrades. We need a vote. In or out.
So, okay.
Point of
So,
order. Can you guys speak up? We can't hear back here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about
And
that.
why not wait, postpone your vote until they've met
Well,
Lowell and
right.
Chelmsford and...
Now, what I'm gonna do right now is, we gotta use microphones in here, because there are people at home who are watching, so you gotta be careful about shouting. That's a decision that we'll make. If we decide to take action tonight, my four colleagues and I will exercise that right. I'm sure they all, and the questions that are being asked right now go to the heart of what you're suggesting. Whether or not we take that action, I don't know yet, because I haven't heard from my colleagues. So that's a valid question. You're going to have an answer to that in probably 5 minutes or less. And that will be an option that my colleagues have. The answer, or the next discussion point here, is that there's a formality of language that's embedded in the statute. There's a motion that's required. So what I'd like to do, rather than ask for the motion and read the paragraph, I'd like to kind of take a temperature of the board, if you will, in an informal way. If the consensus of the board is to move forward with a vote in the affirmative, then I'll come back and ask for the specific motion, and we'll take that vote. If people have concerns and they want to defer or wait this evening, then we don't need to go to that, if that's acceptable. Okay?
I believe we should move forward and confirm our commitment to the other communities that we are in support of this and willing and committed to move forward on something like this.
So that's I'll take that as a motion to move forward in the voting process, and I'll ask if there's a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so let me take the vote on that. All those in favor of moving forward to actual formalize the vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I'll vote in the affirmative as well. All right, so you have the language that's required, or I will read the language. The motion that we need to record in the record will be the motion made, shall the town of Tewksbury accept the provisions of 18O to 18V, inclusive of Chapter 6A of the general laws, providing for the establishment of a regional 911 emergency communication district, together with the towns of Chelmsford and Drake-it, and the construction or siting, administration, operation, and maintenance of a regional 911 emergency communication center by the district under the provisions of the proposed district agreement filed with the Board of Selectmen. That is the motion required by the statute. And I would ask if a member is prepared to offer the motion as just stated.
So moved.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Mr. Wentworth, seconded by Mr. Kratman. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye as well, so that would be unanimous. And I'll ask, we'll get a copy of that to you, Ms. Marchand, so you have that specific language. Is there any other specific action you require this evening?
The agreement that we're working on,
It's in draft form?
Draft form.
Right.
I'd ask the board to vote to I guess, support the agreement subject to final review of town council and stuff. And once it's complete, for signature.
Any questions about that?
So we'd basically be approving the agreement in its current draft form pending review by
Town
council and the town manager.
And once we finalize it, we'll make the signature.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft agreement as suggested.
Second.
All right, so a motion has been made and seconded to approve the draft agreement, subject to review of town council. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well on that.
That is it, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you to our guests. Appreciate your time and patience and information. Chiefs, thank you. And to those who attended tonight, thank you for your patience as well. All right, we have just two other quick items, administrative matters to take care of. Actually, three, I'm sorry. The first is the subject of a one-day beer and wine license for Peregrine's Landing. And that, actually, do we have that? I don't think we have that, Mr. Montori. There was a question, I know Helen mentioned, she wasn't sure if we had all the information yet. If you want, all right, while you're doing that, I'm gonna move to the next item, which is a one-day beer and wine license request by TJ Callahan's Pub, located at 1475 Main Street. This is for the date of September 13, 2015, between the hours of 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. And this is to be, take place at 286 Livingston Street, which is during the Harvest Fest activities. Involves wine and malt beverages only, and it also involves the same individual and company that served beer and wine last year at the first event of its kind. And the insurance information as required by the town has been provided to us as well. So as you all know, TJ Callahan's holds a liquor license, and this would be a one-day special license for that express purpose. Do you have any questions about that? And if not, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for the one-day beer and wine license.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there a second? Second that. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair will vote aye on that, making that unanimous. All right, while we wait for the town manager to return, we also, at our last meeting, we had discussion about appointments. We interviewed 3 individuals for consideration to be appointed to the Economic Development Committee as an associate member. There was 1 associate member position available, open and available, that the board had created a couple of months ago. We interviewed 3 candidates, and Mr. Panelitis, who chairs the Economic Development Committee, apparently met with the town manager and community development director in the last few days, and collectively they are making a recommendation to the board that we consider adding another associate member position to create a second opening, and then to appoint potentially 2 of those 3 candidates to the position, or positions, I should say. I know Mr. Wentworth was not in attendance at the last meeting, and unfortunately, therefore, didn't have the opportunity to meet these individuals, so you're somewhat at a disadvantage here, but I know you expressed to me your willingness to allow the rest of your colleagues to plow ahead and acknowledge that. So let me take this in 2 steps. Is there any discussion, concern, questions about expanding the committee by 1 non-voting member position? This would be an associate member who would sort of be in the bullpen when someone is needed, if you will.
I would support adding another associate member, Mr. Director.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other questions and concerns? So in that case, Mr. Gay, let me turn to you and ask if you'd make that
Yes, I'll make that
motion.
formal motion to add
To expand.
extra associate member to the Economic Development.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second that.
All right, so we now have a motion made and a second to expand the Economic Development Committee by 1 additional associate member, non-voting position. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. And that would bring us to the 3 potential candidates that we interviewed. That was Diane LaBeouf, it was Tom Brancho, and it was Patrick Lawler. All 3 of whom, and I must say, I'm going to digress, we've interviewed a lot of people in the last few years, and quite honestly, I think we could all agree that we have had the pleasure and privilege of meeting many qualified and interesting residents of our town who all have expressed in some form interest in serving their community, which is one of the goals that we set out to do. So a very positive development. So let me ask of those 3 individuals, with thanks to them for taking the time to come and meet with us, and thanks to them for applying for positions, let me ask for a motion relative to the first appointment.
I'd like to make a motion for the first appointment for Diane LaBeouf to become an associate member.
I'll second that.
A second? Okay, and just for clarity's sake, Mr. Panelitis, your motion includes a term that would end June 30th
June
next year?
30th of 2016, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion made, seconded by Mr. Gay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well, so that would be unanimous.
I'll abstain.
And we'll note for the record that Mr. Wentworth is abstaining. And then the newly created associate member position through June 30th of next year. Is there a motion relative to any of the other 2 individuals?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Tom Brancho to the other associate member position.
I'll make a
We
second.
have a second. Thank you, Mr. Gay. So we have a motion made and a second relative to Mr. Brancho for a term through June 30th, 2015. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I know Tom, so.
Chair votes aye as well, so you're voting on that. So that would be 5 votes in the affirmative. Okay, and That would bring us to a full roster through June 30th of next year. I wish you well guiding a football team. That's not an easy thing to do. All right, so we've made those appointments as we promised. We have dealt with the TJ Callahan's license. Do we have information on Peregrine's
I
Landing?
see, I think the only thing we were waiting on from them was the insurance certificate. It was supposed to be faxed over today, and I did not see it on the fax machine, so.
Do you know when the,
I was just gonna
what's,
ask.
the-
anybody-
we have no, I have no paperwork
I
on
think
this.
it's before your next meeting, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to approve it, subject to all of the paperwork being provided satisfactorily to myself and Ellen's.
Yeah, if members are comfortable with that, I don't even know the date that this is taking place. Does anyone have that information?
This is relative to the fundraising you're doing for the football.
I thought it was the 5th.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah, so
Okay. All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant the one-day license, subject to all the paperwork being submitted properly and
Insurance.
agreement with the town.
All right, and it's a beer and wine only license for one.
One day. And I think they're in this afternoon, and they're going back and they're waiting for the insurance company to send a certificate. They're supposed to fax it over, so I'm talking to Jeannie at 4:30 today to talk to her, so if Ellen sees anything else, again, if all the paperwork's not in by end of this week.
Yeah.
then
Okay. All right, so subject to those contingencies, board members comfortable moving forward? So you made the motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will join you in unanimity. Okay, so we've now covered all the sections in our open meeting portion.
one more thing.
Mr. Montori.
I had drafted,
Oh, yes, that's right.
and Elias had drafted a letter for thanking Secretary Jay Ash for
Yep.
coming to the town. But to meet with us, I have one board letter, I have an original here, copies for each of you, if you want to approve it, sign it.
We'll execute that. We met with him as we discussed last time, and it was in our agenda item to make sure we sent a thank you letter. So thank you to you both for making that happen. I appreciate you doing that.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have just a point of order. There was a member of the audience that brought forth a newspaper article from the Salem News that was dated Tuesday, August 25th, 2015, regarding a dispatch center item. So I'm sharing that with the board as official record.
Okay, very good. Can execute that. Thank you.
And relative to that, Pellegrin State, that is on Wednesday, September 2nd, the day of the
Mine
event.
too.
That's the other one
That's
day.
the one-day license, yes.
And what date, that date again was?
9/2.
Yep, Wednesday, September 2nd, 4:30. The end of the game.
Okay, so the only other item on our agenda for this evening, there was going to be an abbreviated agenda, and now it's 10 minutes to 9, but that's okay. That's okay. We need to move into executive session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining agreement and negotiation. In the chair's view, would you pass that over? In the chair's view, the discussion of that material and information in an open session would be detrimental to the town's interests. And as such, I would request a motion to move into executive session for the purposes, stated purposes of discussion of a collective bargaining matter.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion made and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Mr. Wentworth, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gay?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Mr. Panelides?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye again, so we are unanimous. We're going to go into executive session. When we exit executive session, we will immediately adjourn the meeting for the evening. There will be no further public business conducted. So I'm going to offer Mr. Dermody the reprieve to leave for the evening, and we will end the taping of the meeting at this point and bid you all a good evening. Thank you.